Good morning, students of class 9. You are welcome back to the classes now. We are doing history, the French Revolution, and we have reached the subtitle number 6.06. That is the revolution and everyday life. Here we will learn how the common man or common citizen peasants carried on their revolution in their everyday life. We'll talk about that. There are altogether 5 points over here. So we'll go through one by one, listen carefully and try to understand and follow. So now the years following 1789, after the fall of Bastille, the prison fortress, the years following 1789 in France saw many changes. After that, there were many changes that took place in France. The changes in the lives of men, women, children, the lives of the people changed after the fall of Bastille. So, why their lives changed? Because as the laws were made by the revolutionary government that would allow or translate the ideals of liberty, equality into everyday life. The revolutionaries gave some ideas of equality, freedom, fraternity, sovereignty, all this. And these ideas were provided by the scholars, philosophers, the educated middle class, the people. So we have already learned about the educated middle class who emerged, and they were the leaders that carried on that led the revolution. They were responsible for the revolution. We have already learnt about that. Now we will talk about number 2. One such law, among many laws were passed on by the revolutionary government. We have already learnt about the National Assembly in class 9 also. One such law that came into effect was soon after the fall of Bastille, or storming the fortress castle Bastille prison fort in summer of 1789. In the summer of 1789, Bastille was stormed by the agitated people. We have already learnt about that in a previous class also, in class 9 also. And soon after that, the laws were formed by the revolutionary government. And one such law was the abolition of censorship. Previously, whatever newspaper, books, plays, theaters or dramas, whatever was written, it was censored or it was checked by the officials. But now, after the storming of the Bastille, the freedom of press was given. Censorship was abolished. It was removed. Abolition means removal or removal. Number 3, now the Declaration of Rights. Now they declare that all human beings have the right to live and right to express. They have rights. They can enjoy rights. So you can see now the declaration. Declaration means announcement, proclaimed, proclamation. Now the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, French citizen, proclaimed, announced. Freedom of speech. They proclaim that every man has got the freedom of his speech and expression to be natural right. It is our birthright. So it was given to the people. The natural birthright, the freedom of speech and expression by this revolutionary government. So number 4, freedom of press means freedom of press also meant that opposing views, people, they have various views, supporting views, opposing views. So freedom of press also meant opposing views of events. Whatever event takes place or happens, there are people who support the events or people who oppose the event. So these views could be printed and let people understand. So these opposing views of events could be expressed now after the laws were made by the revolutionary government. Previously it was not allowed. Now, number 5, in our everyday life, in their everyday life, let's talk about plays, dramas, songs, books, stories, poems, these and festive processions. Previously, it was not allowed. Festival, during the festival, people take out processions. Festive processions attracted large number of people according to the plays, dramas, theaters. At that time there were no films, so theaters or dramas were played in theaters, halls, and it attracted large number of people. This was one way they could grasp or catch or attract and identify with ideas, so that people could be taught there with ideas such as liberty or justice through drawings, through plays, through writings and songs. Ideas such as liberty, justice, equality, and freedom of speech and expression was introduced among the people in these gatherings, in those gatherings. Liberty or justice, that political philosophers, who were political philosophers? They were the educated middle class people who led the revolution. They guided the people. So, political philosophers wrote about, we have already learned about many writers. Political philosophers wrote about in their books, which only a handful of educated people could read at that time. Very few people were educated, so all could not read. That's why it became pointless if it is not expressed in front of the mass or the people. So that's why these gatherings, festive processions, plays, dramas, songs, these were the events where they could express freedom of express, freedom of speech, liberty, justice. They could express to the people, show to the people who were mostly uneducated. So in their everyday life they could carry on the revolution in this way. So this was the revolution and everyday life. So now in our next video we'll talk about the conclusion, the final part, the conclusion. It's a very short paragraph. So that will be the last paragraph of this chapter. We'll finish this in our next class, the conclusion. So till then you go through this, go through the book as well, read properly. You must do the reading, because you are quite poor in reading, you're not good in reading. Reading must be done. Read with understanding, because the classes have already been finished. You go through the classes as well as online video, as well as you read, so that you can understand each subtitle properly and clearly. So reading is must. So in our next class we'll do the conclusion. So that will be the final part of this chapter. So till then, thank you very much. You go through the book and read and write at home. Keep on practicing. Self-assessment is also very important, so that you will know where you are standing. So that's all for today. Thank you. We'll meet in the next video.